You're listening to the Belly Dance Geek Clubhouse at bellydancegeek.com.
So let's just get started. My name is Nadira, and welcome to the Belly Dance Geek Clubhouse. This is a place where belly dancers can get together and get geeky about all those things that are hard to get in classes and on DVDs. So it's very easy to get instruction on moves and combinations, or what I like to call the what, right? It's all the stuff. But it's really hard to learn about the why and the how, so things like musicality and history and culture and dance composition, and all of that stuff that turns belly dance from exercise into art. So every month I'm going to interview a different guest expert on a different topic, and we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers, so you get to geek out too. So if you think that knowledge and creativity are like chocolate and peanut butter, you are in the right place. So my guest today is Rosa Noreen. Rosa is a dedicated teacher and an elegant performer. Her singular style of belly dance is influenced by her ballet background and years of study in Egyptian dance. Known for her classical lines and thoughtful approach, Rosa delights students and audiences alike. A leader in her community, Rosa co-founded Bright Star World Dance, Maine's only studio focusing on belly dance, in 2010. Rosa's created a popular performance series uniquely showcasing top-notch professional belly dancers, live music, and entertainers across genres, bringing a wider audience to belly dance. Rosa's instructional DVD, Delicious Pauses, Negative Space and Movement, was released in December 2011 and is sold around the world. And if you're on the call with me live today, and that includes people by phone, Skype, or the webcast, Rosa's actually giving away a copy of that later on in the call. So we're going to pick somebody at random right before the Q&A section, so make sure you stick around. So Rosa's going to talk to us today about incorporating stillness in your dance. So I think we should just jump right in. So welcome, Rosa.
Hi, Nadira.
It's great to hear your voice. Rosa and I have known each other for over a year now. We were both together in the Belly Dance Business Academy Circle, and this is actually the first time that we've talked to each other live, so it's kind of like pen pals meeting for the first time. So, Rosa, how did you get into working with stillness?
A few years ago, about 5 years ago, I was actually working for a photographer. She was also a belly dancer, and we were discussing one day over lunch what I should teach. I'd been invited to teach my first workshop, and it was a 15-minute workshop hosted by a dancer up in Bangor, Maine, named Ao. And I was very excited about the opportunity, and I asked Lee what I should teach, what is special about me. And she said, it's your delicious pauses. And there it was born. Being a photographer, she really noticed this thing that I really hadn't noticed in myself, which was that I had a tendency to just sort of stop and pause at certain moments, and that allowed her to snap photographs, and get a good angle, get a good pose. And so I decided to really explore that topic. Then, watching videos of myself from time to time, I noticed that sometimes I did that, and sometimes I just kind of turbo danced, when time, that moment when time goes so much slower for you, the performer, than it does for the audience. You think that you're dancing so slowly and so stately or whatever it may be, and then you watch the video of yourself and you're like, zoom, 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 zoom. And I realized that this was something I wanted to explore. Like, what is it that made those performances that I really liked, the ones where I was able to kind of take my time or take those moments, where was that coming from? And then, watching general videos of all kinds of dancers in the community, I noticed that some did that, some didn't, so I really wanted to get to the heart of it, and that's how this project was born.
Very cool. So why should dancers learn to pause?
Very good question. Dance is movement, right? Well, the space between movements is just as important as the movements themselves. The full title of my DVD is Delicious Pauses, Negative Space in Movement. And so there's a few reasons for this. One, it's fun. It feels good. If you can kind of find a way to get around that initial nervousness that so many dancers feel when we're about to go on stage, and you can escape from that, and you can really learn to enjoy the moment. You can slow down your body, you can slow down your breathing, you can slow down your whole moment and really enjoy that. It's a wonderful feeling. as a dancer, whether I'm doing it in my living room or whether I'm performing in front of people, it's really fulfilling. And I think one reason that it's fulfilling to the audience is that it's fulfilling to the dancer. So there's the performer's perspective. From an audience member's perspective, too much movement can almost make it all seem the same. And so adding a moment of pause is surprising. It's surprising within the context of dance. And it really draws your audience in. It kind of makes them gasp a little bit sometimes, or it just gives them a moment to kind of appreciate everything that's going on. So it adds a new level to your dance. You know, there's your movements, there's your costume, there's your style of music, there's your, your tempo, your rhythms, and then you add this other element of whether or not you choose to keep moving or you choose to take a second and just sort of appreciate it all, and that really adds another layer to your dancing.
Lovely. So you agreed to tell us tonight about some of the myths and mistakes that keep dancers from incorporating stillness in their dance. So
yes, ma'am.
What's the first myth?
So one of them I mentioned already, and that's nerves. You get out in front of your audience, and you feel like, maybe all of a sudden I'm boring. I'm doing the same movement over and over, and I have to impress. I have to show them everything I've got all at once. You don't. So that's myth number one. Myth number two is also something I mentioned, dance is movement, and movement is continuous. That's not true. Movement is just as important for those moments when you're still as it is for the actual quality of movement between the movements. Another myth about this is that there's no room in the music. So sometimes when you're, we'll get into this a little bit later, but when you get into a certain type of music, and it might be fast, say a drum solo, there's no room for stillness. Fact is, there is.
So how can stillness be exciting, right? If everybody believes that it's boring, how do we make it exciting?
Just you wait. So dance, stillness is exciting because it's unexpected in so many levels. So if your audience is seeing you move and move and move, and then suddenly you take a moment and you either focus on your hip and you just slowly move that around, or you take a moment and just take a little gasp and hold it there. It's kind of like you're on the edge of a cliff and who knows what's going to happen next. You don't know if you're improvising. Your audience doesn't know. And so it's a big surprise, and that's very exciting to see what happens next.
I've definitely seen moments like that when I watched other dancers, but I don't think I ever put those words to it.
Yeah, there you go.
So, it sounds like there are different types of stillness. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the core concepts to the whole delicious process thing. So I've identified 3 types of stillness. The first type is calm stillness. So this is something that you see most commonly either before or after a piece. So you would see a calm stillness maybe in a dancer who is waiting for the music to start. You might see them, looking nervous and kind of fidgeting, or maybe standing very stiff. But there are ways to kind of luxuriate in the moment and let maybe the music, the air, the lights just wash over you and calm down and allow yourself to just be standing there and be in the moment, maybe be stately without being nervous seeming before you dance. So that's the first kind of stillness, calm stillness. The second kind is what I call drawing out the musical phrase. So this is kind of a faux stillness. You're still, but you're actually still moving. So you might just be, taking a movement, say a hip movement, a figure 8 of some sort, and just drawing out the phrase with that one movement. So going as slowly as you possibly can so that your movement takes the entire phrase to finish. And the third type of stillness, this is the final type that I've identified for this particular concept, is an anticipatory stillness. And this is what really keeps the audience on the edge of their seats. So this is a surprising kind of stillness. It's something where you might go, and then what comes next? So it's calling attention to your next movement without actually showing what that movement's going to be yet. It's taking a moment, taking a little gasp before you move on. So there's a calm stillness, there's a drawing out the musical phrase stillness, and there's an anticipatory stillness.
I think the anticipatory one is my favorite because when I'm doing it, I'm always thinking at the audience, wait for it, before I go into the next movement. It's just like this nice moment of connection. It's not just about, it's not just about being behind that glass wall. You're actually saying to them, no, wait, you have to wait for this. You have to anticipate
Precisely.
this. Let's step back a little bit onto drawing out the phrase. One thing that I've seen when I've coached my clients is that, they feel like they need to hit every note in the melody when they're following the melody. And it seems to me that a lot of people think that when they're just dancing to the larger chunks of the music, the things that take more time, that it's not as musical. What would you say to that?
That it's not as musical. I think it depends on how tuned in you are. There's a way to do that and to have it just feel kind of rote, like, okay, I'm just waiting for this movement to be over. I'm just waiting, and okay, I'm still moving. All right, still going. That's not very musical. But if you really tune into that, and if you kind of breathe with the music, if you think of maybe the Nai, they're using a type of breath that most of us dancers aren't trained in, although I'm sure we would benefit from it. But if you kind of let your breath flow with that music, or if you're listening to a violin piece, the bow draws along the string and it reaches the end of the bow and it has to start over. So if you can kind of tune in to what's going on with those instruments, which is another reason to, get geeky and really get to know those instruments. You don't necessarily have to play them masterfully, but having touched a qanun once or having, put your hand on the bow of a violin can be incredibly useful for interpreting those instruments. So if you can really tune into what's going on and use your breath to help connect and to help keep you in the moment, that's my answer to your question.
Excellent. And actually, if there's anybody out there who's lucky enough to dance with live music, you can actually watch the musicians playing. It's the coolest thing. Like, you can follow the bow going back and forth. You can watch the drummer's hands. It's awesome. Okay, so I want to jump back a little bit into that second myth, this idea that dance has to be continuous movement. What do you suggest to people who feel that they're not allowed to stop? That when they stop, they're not good enough? Is there a good way to get around that feeling?
That's a great question. Part of it is practicing so that you feel that you know what you're doing. Like with anything, you have to practice stillness, and we'll talk more about that maybe in a few minutes. But if you feel that, I'm sorry, one moment, my cat is digging in a bag.
We're a two-note call tonight, everybody.
I'm so sorry, Nadira. Could you restate the original question? I got distracted here.
Certainly. So a lot of dancers feel like they're not allowed to stop, that if they stop, they're somehow not dancing anymore, or that they're cheating, or that the audience is waiting for them to get on with it. What would you say to that?
Right. Okay, thank you. One thing I would say would be to get to know the rhythms in the music so that you're not just randomly stopping and starting, but you're still tied into the music. So if you know, say there's a rhythm in the music that's going doom tech, tech, doom, tech. We all know this one, right? Doom tech, tech, doom, tech. You've got a Maksoum rhythm going. If you just stop randomly at any point during that, yes, I agree. That wouldn't really fit well. But if you might dance through doom tech, tech, and then just let the doom tech go by at the very end, then you're still connected to it, and you pick back up with the next beginning of the next rhythm or the next phrase. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It sounds like that's getting back a little bit to the third myth that you mentioned, was that there's no room in the music sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
For stillness. So where else does the music make room for stillness?
So there's a lot of different places that we could be still in music. You could look into the rhythm. Basic parts of the music. We've got the rhythm. We've got the instrument, so the primary instrument, whatever is doing the melody. you've got the makam, which, we won't go into today. Most of us dancers, unfortunately, aren't really trained in makam, and I wouldn't say that I am either. But I do like to listen to, what's it called? Makam Lessons. That's all it's called. It's a podcast. It's free. It's on iTunes. It's called Makam Lessons, and it's run by this wonderful, wonderful musician out of New York City named Sami Abu Shimez, who has a group called Zikriyat, and they play some of my favorite music. They play music inspired by the Golden Era Egyptian films. So little side note, but yeah, check out Makam Lessons on iTunes if you want to really get geeky.
I'll get the link from you and include it when I send out the recording details.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, I distracted myself. Could you remind me what we're talking about?
We were talking about finding room in the music for pauses.
Finding room in the music. Thank you so much. All right, finding room in the music. So you can find room in the rhythms themselves, and that's one reason to really get to know about music. We spend a lot of time learning our dance movements, but it's really important to know all those different rhythms. And even if you don't know the names of all of them, that's okay. If you get to know the beats and you're like, oh yeah, this is the one that has 2 dooms and then a doom later, that's a good start. So there's room within the rhythms themselves. There's also room within the melody. So often, say there's a tuck-scene going over the top of a rhythm. So the rhythm I kind of think of as the backbone of the music. It's always there. And then you may have a instrument doing a tuck-scene over the top of it. And that instrument, it has to take time. It has to kind of take time between the notes. Someone's arm is only too long. Someone's breath is only so long. And so when you find those moments, and you don't have to rush, you don't have to anticipate every moment, but if you kind of let it carry you along, if you're sort of surfing it, rather than feeling like you have to hit every single variation in every single note, that allows you a certain amount of freedom.
Excellent. So, one of the places where I think dancers have a big difficulty being still is in the drum solo. So, drum solos are fast, they're upbeat, there's a lot of energy. So why should you use stillness in something that just says, go, go, go?
Because it's exciting. Contrast is so useful. And, contrast is one of the most important things to keep a performance exciting. Contrast will make your audience, just thrilled to be there. So in a drum solo, one of my favorite drum solos, I'll send you this link too. I have to write it down here and remind myself. But one of my favorite drum solos is by Daria Mickiewicz, who's this wonderful dancer out of the Ukraine, I believe. And, in this drum solo, she's just kind of go, 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 go. She is crazy. Her shimmies are amazing and luscious. But then there's some moments where she just takes a second and just kind of struts across the stage, maybe to the beat, but not to every single beat, more to the overarching beat of the music. And it's really exciting. There's another video that I saw recently that I really liked. Adriana Morelli out of San Francisco had this moment where she just sort of did this cute little kick and just stopped in the middle of the drum solo, and it provided this gorgeous contrast. It just really drew me in, and it makes your audience want more. So if you're kind of go, 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 oh, I'm going to hold back for just a second here. You want more, don't you? Oh, yeah. And then we go again. It really almost renews everyone's interest. Not that they were getting bored before, but it gives them what they didn't know they were missing.
Excellent. I've always thought that a still moment can also give them some time to process all the cool stuff that just happened. Mm-hmm. So
exactly.
How do you incorporate stillness in a drum solo?
How you incorporate stillness in a drum solo is through getting to know those rhythms. That's the most important thing. Getting to know those rhythms in the music so that you know what to expect, so that you feel confident that you can stop and that you can start again. Because I know that sometimes as we're dancing, we get into a groove. We just get into a groove, and you feel like if you stop, you won't be able to start up again. You need to just keep going. Help, I can't stop. But if you can really feel comfortable that you know these different rhythms, you might know what's coming up. that's one really good way to do that. Another way is that drum solos tend to, not 100% of the time, and it depends on what drummer you're working with, but a typical belly dance drum solo is made up of sets of often 4, right? So you've got a repetition of 4 times of a certain pattern. And so you know what's coming. I'm so sorry about that. Having trouble here, turning off sound on my computer. Here we go. Okay. So you know what's coming. So you might not dance the first one. You might dance the second one. You might make your audience wait on the third one. And you might dance the fourth one. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So it's kind of an A-B pattern, but A is stillness.
Exactly. Something unexpected.
Like
like you said.
A nice kind of call and response thing too, right? The first one is listen, then you reply, then you listen, and then they reply. Precisely.
It gives an interaction between the dancer and the drummer. And if you're working with a really great drummer, they know how to almost listen for you, listen for your movements, and react to you. And so if you show that you're really paying attention to them and you're interacting, you're not just closing your eyes and dancing as you would to a CD, but if you're really paying attention to them and you're listening, what is it that you're going to do next? I'm interested. It shows that you're confident and they can really have fun with you.
Mm-hmm. So, drum solos are one of those places where stillness is tricky, and I've heard that takseems also get people really nervous about the, oh my God, I have to move and move and move. So how would you recommend applying stillness to takseems?
Great question. In my opinion, breath is the most important thing. That's what works best for me, is to really learn to breathe. When we get nervous or when we're unsure about what we're doing, or if you're focusing really hard, your breath sometimes stops. It just gets caught in your lungs or in your throat, and you just kind of realize that, I haven't been breathing. Okay, here I go. So if you can keep that breath flowing, it's almost like a lifeline. It gives you, when you get the oxygen, coming into your blood and it carries it to your muscles and to your brain, it kind of gives you like a sixth sense. It allows you sort of an into what's going on in that moment. So in a takseem, that would be like a single instrument improvisation, and it might be a solo instrument, or it might be over a rhythm in the background, whether that's a drum or sort of some rhythmic violins, depending on what type of music it is. You have an instrument that's being played by another person, and if you're lucky enough to dance to live music, you can kind of see, if they're playing a kanun, perhaps they're down near the strings, they might lift their hands up a little bit and then come back down into it, and so you can see visually where those pauses are going to be. But if you're dancing to recorded music, it helps to remember that there's a person who's on the other end of that recording, a person who did this music live. And takseems are generally improvised. And so it helps me to know that was improvised, and I can improvise too. So they need to take a little break. They need to take a break both for contrast, for the same reason that we're taking breaks in our dance. They need to keep it interesting and keep it dynamic. There's also, the physical component that we talked about. Your breath can only go for so long. Your arm or your bow is only so long. And so kind of tuning in to where those instruments' little breaks are, that's helpful. But also, if you have a movement that's kind of going, or a note that's going and going and going and going, you might want to just draw that note out. Like, you don't have to go up and down and up and down and up and down. You can just choose to kind of find that middle ground and just try and draw that movement out ever so slowly with one body part until that section or that phrase is over, and then continue with more variations later.
So I think that people have this impression that a lot of the things in the dance are just like God-given talents, right? Things that you're born knowing how to do, or that just occur to you when you get to a certain level and you've taken classes for a certain number of years. rather than something that you can learn and something you can practice. And I think that stillness is one of those things that people just kind of think, oh, that's just who she is. I bet you don't agree with that, do you?
You are correct. You are correct. It's been really fun actually teaching this workshop and, hearing responses to my DVD and hearing people, feel free. Like I had someone tell me that, they just needed the permission. That was all they needed, was permission to go slowly. And then they were able to. That falls into, that's the natural thing, and they were able to tune into it. However, this is something that can be practiced. So I've got kind of some methodology and some ways that I've come up with for people to practice stillness. Just like any other element of your dance, you need to practice it in order to get to really like get it into your muscles, right? Into your muscle memory. Like a lot of us at this point, we feel comfortable doing hip drops, say. We don't have to think about doing hip drops, so we can do something else. Maybe we're going drop, drop, drop with a hip, but your arms are just going up nice and slowly and down. That's kind of a no-brainer what the hip's doing, so we can focus on something else. It's a similar thing with the stillness. If you can get comfortable with it, then you don't really have to think about it. It just becomes another part of your vocabulary. So how do you practice being still? A very good question. One place to start is with a toxine. So take a piece of music that you really like and take one body part. So you're going to take just your hips and say you're going to do just horizontal figure eights with your hips. And so you're just going to take one hip and see how long you can take that one thing and where it connects, where in the music that might start and end. And now also, where along that movement can you stop? So the first one would be a drawing out the musical phrase, pause where you're going as slow as you possibly can. And then the second way would be to find those anticipatory moments. So you could stop that movement kind of anywhere along the clock. If you thought of like one clock over one hip that was parallel to the floor and another clock over the second hip. So if you were going starting at 12 o'clock and you go 1, 2, 3, you could stop for a quick second on the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe you stop to the back. Maybe you stop very quickly in the center of that movement before you switch sides. And so becoming comfortable with different places that you can stop is part of it. So you think of kind of segmenting a movement, whatever that movement may be. When we first start learning belly dance, it's usually broken down, right? So a hip circle may be forward, side, back, center, forward, side, back, center. And so those might be places that you can stop. And so kind of reacquainting yourself, really going back to the basics and reacquainting yourself with how you first learned can actually help add that extra dimension to your dance.
So what are some of the challenges that dancers run into while they're learning to pause?
Often, even when you're first learning, when you're first learning, not even when you're first learning, it feels like you're being boring. It feels like, this just isn't interesting. This isn't interesting. And that's okay. You need to start somewhere. So take that and really persevere. Make sure that you breathe with those moments. Breathe through everything and try and tie your breath to your movement. And it makes you interested. Another thing to remember is that, we're here, we're moving, we're in the moment, we're dancing, hopefully because we love it, and yes, it's work, and we don't have to love every minute of it. It's work, but overall, we love dance, and that's why we're doing it. And so trying to remember those moments is a really big, important part of it. Some other challenges that I've heard of include just not knowing what to do with oneself. So I've got a certain I'm sorry, one moment here. Okay, he's super cute, and he looks oh so innocent all the time, and he is so much trouble. Okay. topic. And now I'm distracted again. Good heavens, I need to make notes for myself before I stop and talk to Kat.
That's okay. We were talking about some of the challenges that you face when you're learning how to pause.
I was really on a particular train of thought. Good heavens. Right, concepts and methodology. There we go. So there's certain things that I like to think of as we're dancing to kind of help tune you into your stillness and tune you into that moment that you need to be able to really be present in order to really successfully use these moments of stillness. So one place that I like to start is with the low belly. When we feel something, we feel it in the pit of our stomach. You know, if you get really excited or if you get really nervous, there's that phrase, my stomach dropped, you know, and that's what I'm talking about. So if you think about, you kind of put your hand right over your low belly, like maybe right above your pubic bone, you know, just a very, very low section. That's a really emotional part of our body. And if we can think of the movement kind of running through there. So if you think of that as sort of a meridian on your body or a certain center point on your body, and you think of your movements running through that part of your body, whether they're undulations or figure eights or traveling steps, they're all connected right there to your low belly. That helps keep you grounded, and it helps keep you in the moment. I already talked about breath, and that's a really big, important part of it. And on my DVD, I actually have a bunch of drills. They're actually improvisational drills that people can use to employ these concepts. And that repetition is something that I find very helpful. Part of that is the idea of having a secret. So if you have an internal narrative going on, that banishes the boredom or the fear of boredom. If you have something exciting that maybe you're not quite going to share with people, that really keeps your internal narrative going, and it keeps people guessing. You know, they wonder, I want what's going on inside of her. I want to feel that. So a secret can be really anything. It can be, you know, I found this amazing bracelet for just a steal at the flea market, and I'm wearing it, and you would never know that it came from the flea market. You know, it could be something that simple. It could be like, oh my God, my cat is so ridiculously cute, and I love rubbing my face in his fluffy belly. You know, but you keep that thought of this thing that you really, that makes you happy in your head as you move. That can really help banish that fear of boredom.
I especially like the last one. I think everybody here has guessed that we're cat fans here. So, like, I like to say I'm a crazy cat lady in training. So I'm after that one. So, but obviously it seems like that's the kind of thing where everybody has, you know, their own personal one, and finding the right one is as much of a challenge as learning how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, you know, is there a wrong way to pause?
That's a very good question. Is there a wrong way to pause? I'd say you have to trust yourself. You know, you have to allow yourself to make mistakes as you're learning. I find it's really helpful to videotape myself. And even if I really am disappointed by what I saw, I learn something from it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that just doesn't work with the music. You know, it just doesn't work. And that's one way that you learn. You know, you learn so much more often from your mistakes than from your successes. And that's really important to remember. So that's one reason that practice is so important. You know, we have to really allow ourselves the freedom to make mistakes. Classes are great. Student recitals are great. And just really taking the time to dance in your living room and allow yourself the freedom to make mistakes. That's important. You know, if you want to get concrete about it, I would say a wrong place to pause would be just because you forgot what you were doing. You know, and that's happened to all of us. You just forgot what you were doing. Either you lost your train of thought. Whether you're speaking or dancing, it's the same thing. But, oh, there I go. That was the wrong place to pause. Yes, if you can tune into those rhythms and tune into the phrasing in music, that can really help keep you from pausing in the wrong place.
So, if there was one thing that you want the people who are listening to this to take away, what would that thing be?
I would want people to feel that they have an option. I want them to feel that they have control, that they are allowed to just take a moment on stage and have it be okay. It's very freeing. It feels so good when you get to just take that moment, whether it's an anticipatory pause, whether it's just taking a moment to strut across the stage, or whether it's really drawing out that musical phrase, to really have the freedom to just take a moment and really revel in it.
I love it. Is there anything else you want to tell us about stillness before we get on to the questions?
Good heavens. Let me look over things here. I would like to say that you can find stillness in any movement. So when I was talking about segmenting movements, that's a really good thing to explore with different movements, whether it's arm movement, snake arms, for instance, or just arm transition, whether it's undulations, whether it's hip accents, whether it's a traveling step where you're traveling across the floor. You take a second, and then you keep going. So I'd want people to really, really delve into different movements and figure out where they can find the stillness in all different movements.
Love it. Okay. Well, this has been really helpful and really geeky in my favorite way, but obviously there's a whole lot more to learn. So how can people learn more from you?
Well, I have a DVD. That is the number one way. My DVD was released about a year ago in December, and I did the math the other day. It's sold in 22 countries, 46 states, and 4 continents, which was really exciting. So I have a DVD. It's called Delicious Pauses, Negative Space and Movement. It's on Amazon.com. You can get it through my website, which is rosanoreen.com. Or you can also get it on Rox TV, which is this really cool new site where you can rent streaming videos for a week or a month, etc., at a time. And so that's immediate access with an internet connection, and that's fun. They have all kinds of cool things on that site. So I've got my DVD.
For those of you who are watching on the webcast, on the left-hand side, you'll actually find a link to Delicious Pauses DVD, so you can use that link, and I'll also send out that URL when I send out the recording to everybody. So that was your DVD, Rosa. What else do you have?
Let's see. Oh, it's sold out on Amazon at the moment, but I swear I sent them a box. It's going to show up again real soon. So let's see. What else do I have? I have my DVD. I have, for free on my website, I have a sign-up bonus. So if you sign up for my newsletter, I send you 2 free Delicious Pauses video combos. So they're links to hidden YouTube videos, and they're just about roughly 2 minutes each, and it demonstrates a lot of the concepts that I talked about today. So that's thing number 2.
And they're great, and they're absolutely worth signing up for.
Thank you. And I don't mind if people unsubscribe. They can also unsubscribe once they get the video combos. I just like helping people out.
So what if people want to dig really deeply into this stuff? Do you have anything for them?
I do. I have something very exciting, and this is really the first time I'm talking about it here on this program. I'm launching a new course in January. It'll start in January. It will run for 8 weeks, and it's a Delicious Pauses online intensive. So one reason that I'm really excited about this is, I teach workshops, and I love teaching workshops, and I love introducing people to these concepts. And in 2 hours, people usually have a lot of questions, and they want to go deeper. And I can have them, get my DVD, and that has drills, and that allows them to return to it over and over. But I'm really excited about this 8-week course because it really engages the participants for almost 2 months and really allows them to dig deep into these concepts and hopefully really get it into their muscle memory, so that when they come out of it, it's truly a part of their dance, and they have these options, and they have the ability to make this contrast, and they have the ability to not be, bullied by the music. They have the ability to pause and let their photographer, get a great shot. And just most important, they have the ability to really engage the audience and keep them on the edge of their seats. So
go ahead.
No, okay.
Sorry.
No problem. I think I have a teensy delay here, so sometimes I get confused. So this is called the Delicious Pauses Online Intensive. It's going to start on January 28th, and it will run through March 24th. It's 8 weeks. And I am offering a special deal for Belly Dance Geek Clubhouse members. The course is $79, but I'm going to give it to you guys for free. Yippee! So the course includes the emails that are going to come out 3 days a week for 8 weeks. There'll be, about a time commitment of 20 to 30 minutes for each assignment, so people can do it on days when they have time. At this point, I'm thinking that the emails will come out on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and people can kind of pace it as they need to. They're also going to get 2 conference calls, and so we'll have 2 options, two points in time during the conference when we can get together and talk. I'll have some material to present, and people can ask questions. So that's the basic package. That's the normal price for that is going to be $79, but that's what I'm offering for you guys for free. Woohoo! Free! And then we've got another option. I do have an upgrade. So for just $10, people can upgrade. They can get a private Facebook group where they can, log in anytime, ask me questions, connect with other participants, discuss, different things that people have done. And that's something that I've found really helpful, like with your course, with the Rock the Routine course, with other things I've done. I really love that access. So private Facebook group. And then I'm also going to be releasing 2 workshops on Rock's TV over the course of this. So those will be standalone. People can rent them as a standalone, or as part of the premium package upgrade, they're included. So the premium package upgrade, $10, they get membership in a private Facebook group and also 2 special streaming workshops that are going to be topics that are very much related to the course material.
Nice. I'm so there.
Woo!
So if other people want to do that, how can they sign up?
They can sign up. There is a special link that I know that you have now, and I will tell you all right now, and I know Nadira will email it to you as well. So they can go to rosanoreen.com/delicious pauses, all one word, /taktaba, which is the name of your website, TAKTABA. So rosanoreen.com/delicious pauses /taktaba, and they'll see the special private sign-up link there, and all the details, too, on the course.
Excellent. And those of you who are on the webcast, that little box on the left also has a link to the Delicious Pauses Online Intensive, so you can click right through. Everybody else will get that URL when I'm done with the call. And people don't have to be live on the call to get that, right? This is going to be available for a little while?
That's correct.
How much time do people have to sign up?
Yes, ma'am. This will be available until November 30th.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So it sounds like we've got a good almost 2 weeks to sign up, which is great. But I still encourage people to do it first. You don't want to forget. I always tend to do that. I get the email. I'm like, oh, I should totally take care of that, but not right now. So even though it's free, you don't want to miss that part. Excellent. I'm really excited about this. I'm especially excited to see dancers start using different ways to reach people who aren't local to them, right? It seems to me that for a long time the belly dance community has been so locally based that unless it was one of those, dancers who is traveling to teach a workshop in a different city every weekend, they really kind of get lost in their local community where, everybody in Maine knows how awesome you are, but not everybody else might. Because they can't get access to you unless they're lucky enough to go to the Las Vegas Belly Dance Intensive. So, I'm really excited that you're offering this to people all over the world. So yay! Now, before we jump into the calls, Rosa has another awesome thing for you, and that's that we're going to be giving away one copy of the Delicious Pauses DVD, okay, so to one person who's actually attending live right now. So we're going to pick somebody at random from among the live callers and from among the webcast. Now, in my nice little broadcast here, I can see everybody who's on the live call, but I can't see who's on the webcast. So if you're listening in online, just go ahead and use that Submit Your Questions box on the left to just enter your name and submit that question so I can see your name, so I can select somebody randomly. So we're going to give you a second to take care of all that. And I also know that there's a slight delay on the webcast, so we're going to give it another sec. So while we're waiting for everybody to just, post your name through the webcast so I can include you in the entry. Rosa, is there anything else you'd like people to know about the online course or your DVD or anything else?
Let me see. Let me look over my page and remind myself everything that's a part of this online course. Let's see, so it's 8 weeks long. It starts at the end of January, so we get some time to recover from the holidays and all that good stuff, reorient ourselves for the new year, and then seize those New Year's resolutions. Woo! So we've got the online course, we've got my DVD, and we've got the video combos that are free with my newsletter. If I may, I'd love to plug an event that I'm teaching at.
Please do.
Great. I will be teaching at the Asheville Belly Dance Festival, which is happening in mid-April in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm super excited. The dancers who run that are Lisa Zahia and Masati Janan, and they are just wonderful, wonderful people. And they pulled together a really cool crew for this festival this year. I love traveling, so I'm really excited to be teaching there this year.
Excellent. Okay, so I've got a list now. So we've got 3 people on the webcast and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 live. So there are 10 people total. So I'm going to go to random.org, which is a website that has a random number generator, and I'm going to randomly pick somebody between 1 and 10, and whoever that is the winner. So here we go. I am getting number 2, which is Catherine in Laguna Beach. So Catherine, if you're on the call, I'm going to unmute you really quickly. Just say hi.
Hi.
Hi there. So hopefully you can stick around to the end of the call, and we'll get your shipping information. If not, I can drop you an email afterwards. All right,
okay,
so congratulations. You're getting a copy of Rosa's DVD. I'm going to meet you back on to start the question and answers, but congrats.
Thanks.
Congratulations, Catherine.
Thanks.
Excellent. Okay, so we're going to start the question and answer time. So the way this is going to work is if you have a question for Rosa and you're on the phone, go ahead and press star 2. If you're on Skype, you can also press star 2, but that's not the star on your keyboard. It's the star on the Skype dialing pad. And to display that, you may have to press the button to get that open. And I actually didn't bring my instructions on how to do that. So you may need to go to Skype.com to look up those. And if you're on the webcast, you can use that Submit Your Question button box on the left to enter in your questions for Rosa. Okay, so if anybody has a question, press star 2. If anybody on the webcast has a question, just go ahead and type that in. I do see that we had a question a little bit earlier from Karen, who had asked about the water balloon effect, which is a term that Rosa mentions on her DVD. And no, Karen, we have not answered it in the call. That's what she asked. So, Rosa, do you want to tell us what the water balloon effect is? Oh, my goodness,
Hello?
I muted Rosa. I'm sorry about that. Oh, it looks like we might have actually lost Rosa.
Yes.
That's not good. Okay.
I'm so sorry, I dropped off.
Okay, do we have
Nadira?
There we are. Excellent. All right.
My apologies.
No problem. Well, at least you dropped off while I was talking and not while you were talking. Okay. So we had a call, actually, a question slightly before we started the question and answers. Karen in Albuquerque had asked if you had mentioned the water balloon effect yet on the call, and we hadn't. So would you like to tell us what the water balloon effect is?
Absolutely. That's part of the Delicious Pauses methodology. So the water balloon effect is really fun. I like to tell people to imagine that they have a water balloon in their solar plexus. So it's like their rib cage is resting on top of a water balloon. There's a little bit of a buffer between their rib cage and the rest of their body. So that water balloon allows for a little bit of movement and avoids stiffness. So part of the problem with stillness, especially in the calm stillness portion of it, can be the feeling like I'm just standing here, I'm really stiff, and that makes me really uncomfortable. So imagining that you have this water balloon in your solar plexus can allow a little bit of movement. So you don't have to just be totally stiff, but you have this little water balloon in there, and it just allows you to maybe sway side to side just the teeniest bit. So if you've ever laid on a waterbed, you know what I'm talking about. There's never complete stillness. There's always a little bit of give and take that allows for things to just kind of float along. It's just a little more, I don't know, a little more easy. It's not, I've never slept in a waterbed, but I've definitely tried one out, and they are bizarre and kind of cool.
Excellent. Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Rosa? You can press *6 on your phone or on your Skype keypad, or if you're on the webcast, you can type that in at the box at left. Okay, we've got one hand raised in Vallejo, California. Hello.
Hi there, this is Nina. Hi, Rosa.
Hi, Nina.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I've got one quick question. When are you going to do the delicious pauses with a drum solo?
Yeah, that's in the works, actually. That is one of the workshops that's going to be included in the premium package, one of the workshops that's going up on Rock TV.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Thanks for calling in.
Well, I want to know more about that. Tell me, what are you including in that? Well, if you had to write bullet points for that, what would they be?
Okay, bullet points. I actually do have them written, and they're not coming up easily on my computer, so I'll see what I can do off the top of my head. So part of it is going to be rhythm identification. So getting familiar with the rhythms. There's obviously a million DVDs that do that and that are maybe top musicians who know more than I do on that front. However, we're going to specifically focus on where within those rhythms we might be able to pause. So we'll have some combinations, we'll have some improv drills, and we'll have some methodology for identifying and tying ourselves into those. So some sort of cues that we can get ourselves used to.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this.
Excellent. Okay, we've got a question from Wallace Ruby. Hi, Wallace
Okay,
Ruby. How are you doing?
I need my shoes. I need my shoes. I was looking for those.
Hi, Wallace Ruby.
Hello?
Hi there. Welcome.
Thank
What's
you.
your question for Rosa?
I do. And I feel you've begun to, or maybe I'll cover this, but I just would like to go a little deeper in framing the pause so that the audience doesn't feel like you're withdrawing into yourself. Like, how do you frame the energy of the pause so that it is like, I have something I'm not telling you, or I have, or, you know, that it's still a performance piece?
Great question. Great question. So one way to do that is to actually make eye contact with your audience at the moment of that pause. So say you're doing an anticipatory pause and you're using sort of a little gasp type of a breath for that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look out at your audience and you catch someone's eye, or, you know, if you're lucky enough to have slightly nearsighted eyes where you can dance without your glasses, you pick a random person or you pick a random spot in the audience and it totally looks like you're staring at one person. And, you know, you don't want to stare them down. This is no contest, but it's kind of like a little moment of engagement. So you can look at the audience, you can look down at your body part that's sort of being held in suspension, look back at them, and then move on from there. So that's one way to engage.
Okay, thank you.
You're most welcome.
Excellent. Okay. If anybody else has a question, you can press *2, or on the webcast, you can type that in at the box at left. In the meantime, I also did find instructions on how to display the dial pad on Skype. It looks like in the Skype window, there's actually a little drop-down menu and an option to. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, there's a little pull-down menu with an option to display dial pad. So if that's giving you trouble, you can do that. And if you're in a position where you can't get that, you can also go to the webcast. It's instantteleSeminar.com/event ID 349-73220. All right. So let's check. I see we've got a question on the webcast. So Karen in Albuquerque had asked, when dancing, it seems I'm inherently a tad bit conflicted, and stillness seems to take up a lot of energy. How can I achieve this calmness and be perfectly centered so I don't look caught off guard or frightened? I think that's a great question. Rosa, would you like to take that one?
Yes. Could you repeat the beginning of that, the first portion of that question?
Sure thing. Karen had said, when dancing, it seems that I'm inherently a tad bit conflicted, and stillness seems to take up a lot of energy. So how can she achieve that calmness and be perfectly centered so she doesn't look like she's caught off guard or scared?
Great question. Great question. One thing that I really like to do before I go on stage is to take a moment and try and be in the moment. So I like to start by just standing still and letting myself feel the weight of my costume. You know, my skirt, the fabric of my skirt on my legs, to feel perhaps, you know, the fringe of the beads. You know, I'm a cabaret dancer, so I've got the beads and the shinies all the way. If you're a different type of dancer, you'll feel different things on your body, but you want to take that moment and be in the moment. And then I like to just really take a deep breath, and then as I let it out, start to move nice and slowly as I can, and also as relaxedly as I can. And then I'll try and turn that into a shimmy and just keep breathing really nice and evenly in a very, very much on-purpose way, and really try and keep my shimmy nice and relaxed. If I find that I can keep my shimmy relaxed, I'll have no problem keeping the rest of my dance relaxed. So that's something that works for me personally. One question I have for you is, what do you mean by conflicted when you're dancing? And maybe I can address this a little better.
Excellent. Karen, so if you'd like to tell Rosa more about what you mean by conflicted in your dancing, go ahead and type that in the box. There's a little bit of a delay on the webcast, so it may take Karen a minute to do that. In the meantime, if anybody else has another question, you can press *2 to raise your hand.
I do have one thing to possibly add to that.
Great. Go ahead.
And again, I don't know if this addresses what she means or not, but this is something that, you know, numerous teachers have said, and I totally agree with it. When you're performing, you want to do the movements that you're comfortable with. And in the moment, if you feel like you want to take a risk, you know, that's fine. But when you're performing, hopefully you're performing movements that you are comfortable with and that, you know, you feel confident in. And, you know, I don't know for sure if that's what she means by conflicted, in that she's being very much challenged and having to think hard about the movements. But that's something to think about, is to perform movements that you're comfortable with and take risks in the classroom.
Even if it's not what she was thinking, it's still great advice. Okay.
I'm sorry, so back to the other person?
Yes, I don't receive a response from Karen yet.
Okay.
So if anybody else has a question, you can press *2 to raise your hand. And I got a little bit more information on that keypad thing in Skype. If you look at the little icons in your Skype window, there's one that looks like a microphone, one that's 6 dots, one that's a plus sign, and one that's a phone. If you click on the one that's 6 dots, that will give you the numbers and the star. You can press *2 there if you're on Skype. Okay, let me double check the webcast. Okay, I don't see any new questions there. Last call to raise your hand, star 2. Oh, your cat has a question. Okay, so I think we're going to call it a night then. Thank you so much, Rosa. This has been really fun and really geeky and really informative. And thanks, everybody, for coming. So this is the end of our call, but the conversation isn't over yet. We have a private Facebook group for the Clubhouse, which is actually no longer private, but I'll send out a link to that shortly in my email. I'll also be including a link to the call recording so you can listen again, and also to the details on the Delicious Pauses course. And I'm also going to include a link to ask for your feedback. This is very important to me that this be something that you enjoy geeking out on too. So I'm very interested in what topics or speakers you'd like to see on the Clubhouse and what improvements I can make to make this more useful or more convenient for you. So our next call for the Clubhouse is going to be on Monday, December 17th at 8 p.m. And my guest is going to be Amy Smith, who is the publisher of Belly Dance New England magazine. And she is going to talk about the origins of the American cabaret style. Now, I like to say that the Belly Dance Geek Clubhouse is the come-on-in kind of clubhouse, not the no boys allowed type. So if you know anybody who would enjoy it, you can send them to talktaba.com/clubhouse, and they can sign up too. And the recording from this call will be available until I upload Amy's on December 17th. So we've got lots and lots of time to get this information out to more people. So again, thank you, Rosa. Is there anything else you'd like to say to folks before we go?
I'd just like to thank you so much. You are most welcome to spend my time here, and I'm really thrilled to talk with you and just geek out with everyone. Thank you to everyone for your questions as well.
Excellent. So I'm going to unmute everybody so we can say goodbye. And until next time, happy dancing. Goodbye, everybody.
Happy dancing.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. For more geek-tacular resources, visit bellydancegeek.com.